Well, welcome everyone. I see there's still some people filtering in from the Zoom waiting room, but we'll go ahead and get started. It's great to have you join us today. Happy New Year. I am Laura Shrake. I lead the business and sustainability programming at the Council of the Great Lakes region, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to our first webinar of 2025, part of our business and sustainability webinar series. We will be using our time today to hear from the Vice President of Sustainability and Environmental Services with Cleveland's NBA team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Danielle Doza will walk us through the intersection of sustainability and sports, and share what they are doing in Cleveland to make their team and sport more sustainable, as well as the challenges and opportunities in doing so. So by my rough count, the Great Lakes region hosts around 70 major sports teams across its 8 US states and 2 Canadian provinces. And this includes basketball, baseball, football, hockey, and soccer teams. But there are many more that draw a crowd when you consider minor league teams and college sports as well. And when a single major sporting event can generate enough waste and consume enough energy to rival that of a small city, it is clear there is a significant role the sports industry can play in advancing sustainability. The economic and social benefits of major sports are plentiful. They create jobs and contribute revenue to local economies. They also unite our communities and bring diverse groups of people together. And they're an important social outlet for many of us. They inspire, they create shared experiences, and often they can be a platform for social change. But behind every major sports game, every packed arena or championship game, there is a big impact on our environment. Resources are being consumed, greenhouse gases are generated, and vast amounts of waste are produced, especially plastic waste and food waste. So the sports industry has an undeniable environmental impact. Fortunately, however, sustainability in sports is on the rise. The NBA, NHL, and NFL all now have green initiatives. And I'm going to pass it over to Danielle shortly to share what is happening with the NBA and the Cleveland Cavaliers specifically, who are helping set the standard for what it means to be a green major sports organization. Following Danielle's presentation, we are going to have time for Q&A, where we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Both those that have been submitted at the time of registration and those that will be coming in now during the live webinar. So if you have any questions during Danielle's presentation, please type them in the Zoom Q&A box. The Zoom chat is also open, and you can use it to chat or share information with other attendees. But for questions that you want directed to our speaker, if you could please put them in the Zoom Q&A box, that will just help me keep track of what's coming in. So thank you in advance for that. But now let me go ahead and introduce Danielle. So Danielle Doza is the Vice President of Sustainability and Environmental Services for the Cleveland Cavaliers and Rock Entertainment Group, the first dedicated senior level sustainability position in the NBA. At the Cavs, Danielle works across the company on sustainable operations, procurement, and reporting, and integrating sustainability into partnership development. And she was recently recognized by Sports Business Journal as one to watch for women in sports and sustainability. So we are very excited to have Danielle here with us today. Danielle, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you to the Council for the Great Lakes region, and I appreciate everyone joining today. I appreciate your time. So a quick overview of our organization. We have several aspects to it. Of course, it's the NBA Cleveland Cavaliers. We have the American Hockey League team, the Cleveland Monsters, our arena, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, where we host concerts and other events. We do have our NBA minor league team called the Cleveland Charge that plays at a different facility. And Rock Entertainment Group is our entertainment side of things. And then we launched a local broadcast channel called Rock Entertainment Sports Network. So that's an overview of our organization. I am, as Laura mentioned, the first senior level position in the NBA. The NBA does have, I think, about 10 teams now with someone dedicated to sustainability. But I am proud of our organization for taking the lead and really investing in sustainability. It makes a statement that this is a more senior level position. So go Cavs. My focus is on heavily on facility operations. That's where I sit. So my team is I'm on the facility operations team. I also focus organization wide on strategy development and goal setting. And then, of course, integrating sustainability throughout the entire organization. And we have over 500 full-time team members. Our organization does a lot in-house. So we have a large team and many different teams within the organization. Our data collection, for those data nerds out there, we do think about scope 1, 2, and 3, and are collecting that data, working on setting that baseline, likely using a year after our transformation. So our facility went through a major transformation in 2019. COVID hit shortly thereafter. So our first full season after that was 2022 to 2023. So we're looking there and then beyond that. But anyways, we do have a small scope 1 of some propane, some CO2. Scope 2, of course, is some of our biggest with electricity, natural gas. We do collect our waste data, continue to do that and evolve it. And I have a couple of things here in parentheses are items that we will track in the future. Just working on setting that up. So team travel, of course, I know people often ask about that when thinking about sports and impact and our employee business travel. I am the one person collecting all of that data as of right now, but working with our internal teams to think about how we can streamline that process more and really understand our impact. And then I have water down there. So, not always part of scope 1, 2, 3, but as we are on the Great Lakes and a steward of the Great Lake Erie, we do want to think about our water usage. We have an internal sustainability committee we call the Sustainability Squad. It's about 20 team members from across the organization. They really provide input on our strategy and initiatives with their views from their work, their team. They help educate other team members and support sustainability within their team. So they're our frontline, first champions throughout the organization supporting sustainability that I get to work with closely. Materials management and waste reduction is, of course, a heavy part of our focus. We think, how do we reduce our waste into landfill and really divert that? A big aspect to that is evaluating all of the materials that come into our facility. So everything that comes into the arena has to leave the arena. How can we understand what's even coming in? This is very much an ongoing process. Whether we're thinking about food and beverage materials, maybe it's our giveaways to retail items to office supplies. It's our offices are here at the arena as well. So it covers all of that. So we continue to evaluate that. I do work closely with our procurement team to start looking at that, our food and beverage team. And then our housekeeping team, of course. So we have recycling, we're doing composting, I'll mention that, but this is an ongoing process and we really want to understand what all of those materials are that we're using. Our food and beverage partner is Aramark, and we work closely with them to think about how we can approach sustainability within that food and beverage space. We do compost back of house with a local company, Rust Belt Riders. So all food scraps in kitchens and things that come back from suites and clubs gets composted. If you come to the arena, you'll start to see some more compostable materials, like cups and utensils and plates, and we're thinking about that shift a bit more. Of course, plastic bottles and aluminum cans are recyclable. And then just identifying ways to shift to more recyclable or compostable items, which is a large source of our waste. You think about, we've got thousands of fans coming in for an event. It is a large source of waste, as Laura mentioned at the top of this presentation. We want to think about, as we know we are going to create this large source of waste, how do we do that more responsibly? So we continue to think about that every day and exploring some more plant forward options within our food and beverage space. We did an energy audit this summer. The building is 30 years old. We're celebrating 30 years this season. So that audit provided recommendations for energy reductions and better management. We want to invest more in conservation and efficiency of energy. If any of you are out there in that energy space or pay those energy bills, you know that they are going to go up later this year. So if you're in the PJM market at least, so we are in the PJM market. Costs are going to spike later this year, so it's something that's very much top of mind, and of course top of mind for GHG emissions. So energy is a big one, and we're working on a more comprehensive approach to energy conservation and efficiency. Sustainability works very closely with our housekeeping team. Big shout out to our housekeeping leadership team, who has jumped full in on sustainability. It's really exciting to get to work with them. I meet with our housekeeping team really weekly, and they are very much advocates for sustainability. They really are dedicated to thinking about how we can, reduce our waste sent to landfill, think about training of our team members, working with their team. And we will be exploring some green cleaning solutions. We do some right now, but really evaluating, like I said, it's part of materials management in a sense as well, looking at all of those cleaning products we're using within the field house, and how do we make sure we're prioritizing the health of our people. But our housekeeping team are frontline champions. They're literally working with the waste and thinking about that all the time. So we look to our frontline housekeepers for ideas about how we can improve things, or how we can educate our own team members more about proper recycling or separation of waste, things like that. Our retail team is incredible. We have our whole retail team is in-house, and has been for a while. We do a lot of our own designing. We also have our own internal line called the Land Collective. So we do a ton on retail, which is really exciting. And I'm starting to work with our retail team to think about, how do we engage suppliers to reduce packaging, right? Because we get a lot sent to us for our retail items. And how can we, not only reduce the labor needed to deal with all of that packaging that they get. So how do we have just less coming in the first place, and then reduce waste, of course, and evaluating clothing materials and all that. It does take time, but it's our retail team is also, just jumped on board and really gets it and is excited for the opportunities within that retail space. And one thing I'm so excited about is 2 items we launched recently as part of our City Edition collection. We did a retail collaboration with the Cleveland Museum of Art and a local company called Found Surface. So we have a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. They are fully traceable items of clothing. So the cotton was grown in, organic cotton was grown in Texas. It was milled in Pennsylvania, and everything was cut and made right here in Cleveland, Ohio. So not only did it support the local economy with partnering with a local company called Found Surface, we can trace that, and the scraps from the manufacturing process were actually composted with Rust Belt riders. So all that, the cotton scraps were composted. It's just a really exciting story. I love these pieces, and it's kind of kickstarting us to think about what else we can do, right? This was possible. These items are available only in our team shop at the arena and also at the shop at the Cleveland Museum of Art. So encourage you to get yourself to Cleveland if you're interested in this, and come take a look at the arena and at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Partnerships is a growing part of sustainability. So this is our corporate partners. You think, when you go to a game, you see all kinds of marketing around advertising. So those are our corporate partners. We are thinking about how do we better align our partnerships with sustainability. We are working actively within that partnership space to think about how we can elevate our partners, and also amplify their sustainability work. So using sustainability to drive revenue can really help build the support for sustainability too within an organization. One partnership I'll talk about right now is WM. You may have seen some news recently. WM is very much a Great Lakes company, with presence throughout Michigan and Indiana, Ohio, but they are our waste hauler. We started using them over the summer and paired with a close partnership, a sustainability partnership. So as they have a sustainability advisory team that we meet with regularly, who is supporting us to develop standard operating procedures, develop more training for our team members, reference guides. We're looking at signage, evaluating how we can better communicate with our team members and with fans on waste. So this has been just a really great partnership. We're excited for what is to come. We're only about 6 months into this partnership and we're doing a lot already. And there's much more to come. So stay tuned on that WM side and follow us along on that waste journey. Davy Tree is another really exciting sustainability partner for us. They support our Trees for Threes program. For every 3-point shot made during the season, we do plant a tree for that. So last year we had 582 trees. This year, if you've been following along with the NBA, the Cavs are doing great. I have no doubt we'll exceed that. The picture on the right there is a planting we did last year for over 486 trees, not all at once, but they do get distributed. What I really love about this is all the trees are planted right here in Northeast Ohio. So we keep those trees here. And we're working closely with Davy to continue that program. So it's just a really exciting partnership. And if anyone out there is involved in tree planting programs, the best programs are ones that directly impact your community and you can see those trees. And we bring team members out to help plant those trees. So it's so much more meaningful and more impactful for our community. We have a team member volunteer program that our social impact and equity team runs. Our social impact and equity team is an incredible team. They do so much work within our community, build so many relationships. I think we have got 8 or 9 people on that team. I work closely with them as well as we think about how do we integrate sustainability into our community impact, and part of that is volunteering. So there's an organization here called Trash Fish, where they take groups out in kayaks on the Cuyahoga River and we pick up trash and we learn about the impacts of mostly plastic pollution on our waterways. So this has been one of the most favorite volunteer events of our team members. We did 2 this year. Last summer. I have no doubt we'll do a few more this summer because people just have a ton of fun really getting out in nature and help cleaning up our river. And our arena overlooks our river. And we are building a brand new practice facility right on Collision Bend on the Cuyahoga River. So the fact that we can see our river every day, just motivates us to want to care for it more. We try to find outlets for any unused products. I'm sure many of you have been to sporting events before where maybe you've gotten a t-shirt or a rally towel or something like that. So this is just one example. We donated some leftover rally towels to a local animal shelter. We do find uses within our own organization that folks might, reuse certain products. So we're always thinking about that. I get messages almost every day about, hey, I've got this leftover that we're not going to use. So we can think about, can another team use these products or items, or maybe we're going to find a donation outlet for it. So our social impact and equity team is very much involved in that too. They have close relationships with a lot of organizations within our community, so they know kind of who can use what, which is really great. So it's a lot of fun, and sometimes you get to play with puppies. We recently held a college sustainability event. Over 250 college students and faculty and staff were there, which is really incredible. It was so exciting to see this many young people engaged and interested in sustainability. And for a lot of them, it was their first time at our arena or their first time at a Cavs game. So it was really cool. All of the colleges were from the Northeast Ohio area, Eastern Pennsylvania, a couple from Columbus came up to learn about sustainability. And then they got a tour of the arena and got to enjoy the game. And we did a panel beforehand with myself, a representative from Davy Tree, the director of sustainability initiatives at Greater Cleveland Partnership, which is our local chamber of commerce. And then our senior director of procurement joined us. He is the co-chair of our sustainability squad, and very much growing in his kind of sustainability capacity, which is really awesome. So he talked to the procurement side of things. So it was a really engaging event. People are already asking if we can do it next year. So I'm excited to continue to engage younger people in this. We're also part of an initiative called GOAL, Green Operations and Advanced Leadership through Oakview Group. This is a consortium of venues that host sporting and live entertainment events. It is a really great program to, one, get support, sort of some consulting support for sustainability. We can reach out to their experts. They provide us our software platform for greenhouse gas emissions. So that's really nice that we can log in and utilize that platform. And they work with us hand in hand on that. And we also meet regularly, so I can connect with others in the industry to provide best practices, get feedback, all that kind of stuff. So big shout out to Goal. And last year they implemented a medal process. So we were able to apply for certain medals to be recognized for our work. We received 8 medals in these 5 categories. And this is a big testament to work that was already being done before I arrived at the organization. So I've been here about 1.25 years. So I started October 2023. And our organization was already doing a lot of great work. We have, like I mentioned, our social impact and equity team. Our people and culture team is really focused on health and wellness of our team members. And the compost program was already started before I got here. So it was just, sustainability was a natural fit for our organization, and we continued to grow it. But really shout out to our whole organization for all the great work we do. And I know we'll continue this great work, but it was nice to be able to be recognized for some of this and be able to share that out with our team members and say, hey, all of the great work you are doing, is really having an impact. Another organization is the Green Sports Alliance. Some of you may have heard of it. This organization has been around for over a decade, well over a decade, I believe, but great organization, again, for connecting with others within the sports industry, focused on sustainability, finding best practices. The Green Sports Alliance does have playbooks on their website for free that you can download, focused on different aspects of sporting events and sustainability. So if you're someone interested in this space, or maybe you're working in the space, you can go download those playbooks, find some case studies, find recommendations. GSA also has company members that provide solutions for sustainability in some way, so we can look to them for some of those recommendations. They have an annual summit as well that brings folks together in the industry to learn from each other and connect. So big shout out to Green Sports Alliance as well. And the NBA, of course, is at NBA Green for, I think, about 15 years maybe. But the NBA is committed to promoting environmental sustainability. They do have a director of social impact and sustainability who we communicate with often. and there is a sustainability working group, essentially. So we meet at least every other month of folks just within the NBA. And the NBA does provide support to us in the form of some consultants that we can access, or we do share best practices. We hear what other teams are doing. You know, some teams can present and share about what they're doing, or we can get connected with others. I talk to other, NBA folks in sustainability often, and it's great. I would say, within sports, of course, we're a competitive bunch. That's really what sports is. Sustainability is one area where people are very open and collaborative, and we know we're only going to make greater impacts if we do the work together. So that's what's really fun about working in sustainability in sports is just that collaborative nature, and we can have fun with that competitiveness too, right? We want to push each other and we want to push the industry. So big shout out to the NBA for advancing this as well, and supporting us and all of the teams in these efforts. Now I just want to talk about why we're doing this. Why what else you can think about, because extreme weather or climate change will impact every sport in some way, and I know a lot of us are thinking about the wildfires right now in Southern California. And it's very scary and devastating, and it has impacted sport. You may have seen some either professional athletes or uh, the coaching staff or anything, saying they've had to evacuate their families or anything like that. The Palisade fires are really close to the Rose Bowl arena. I'm sorry, the Rose Bowl Stadium. So it's, very much an impact there. The NHL game at Crypto.com Arena was canceled. Air quality is really bad there. That directly impacts the health of people, the health of athletes, the health of fans. So and here's, just an example of flooding. Whether it's rising temperatures or increased flooding, it's making many areas unplayable. You may have seen a lot of coverage of the Olympics over the summer, talking about the heat, right? Heat is very much an issue for outdoor sports, and thinking about the health and performance of athletes, or poor air quality, or the quality of water. So it's directly impacting all of that. And this was the wildfires was that last year from up in Canada. All of that smoke came down into, not only the Great Lakes region, but over to the East Coast. This is a picture of Yankee Stadium. You have to cancel games because the air quality is so bad, where wildfires might be many, many miles away. That is still impacting us, here down in the United States. Uh, so this is just a bit of an overview of other other ways of or reasons why we're thinking about this. And if any of you are winter sports fans, you know that lack of snow and ice is threatening outdoor winter sports. Of course, we do like to ski and do other things here in the Great Lakes region, and some areas have not been able to do that as often. So that's just me personally. I wish I could cross country ski a little bit more in the winters. So there is a group I want to mention called the Sport Ecology Group. There are some folks in the Great Lakes region at universities that are part of this. So it's a group of academics who are focused on advancing sustainability within sport and supporting organizations in that way. So just, I kind of love their mission statement. Imagine if all people understood and supported the environment with the same interest and passion they showed their favorite sports teams. Where would we be? I think we'd be a lot farther along. But how do we encourage people to do that? So that's a big challenge. And the one of the founders of that organization is based in the Great Lakes region. Came out with a book recently called "Warming Up: How Climate Change is Changing Sport." So encourage you to get that book if it's something you're interested in. Good overview there. And that's it for me. I know we have a lot of questions, so I didn't want to take up too much time with that presentation because I definitely want to get to these questions and chat with people. But if you are interested, please feel free to find me and request me on LinkedIn. And Laura, I will pass it back to you to get the conversation started because I know we've got a ton of questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Danielle. And yeah, thanks for giving us that snapshot and that big picture of what you're doing. And congratulations on your achievements so far. I know that there's a lot of work ahead and probably a lot of big targets that you want to achieve. And in order to do that, it's so important to have sustainability embedded in the organization. And it looks like you have that with your sustainability squad. Um, so yeah, so we'll go ahead and just jump into the Q&A now so we can get a little bit more detail of what that squad is doing and how you're able to navigate all that work. We'll start with a few questions that came in with the registrations, and then as more questions keep coming in from our audience, I'll just try to sprinkle those in, and hopefully we can get to as many as possible.
Okay.
But the first one I want to ask is one that came in with the registrations, and there's one that's sort of been posed just a few moments ago. Also, I think everybody is a little envious of your position. And so the question is about navigating a career like yours. And so how do more sustainability professionals jump into sport and sustainability?
I feel lucky every day to have this position. It is very unique. I recognize that. More and more sports organizations are starting to hire sustainability positions. I see, every week, sometimes every day, there's postings, whether it's here in North America or over in the UK and Europe. Um, so continue to look for some of that, but there are some organizations you can follow. One is called Eco Sports, based out of Europe, but very much has a presence here in the United States. They offer some trainings and other webinars specifically focused on sports and sustainability. I think you might be able to get some recordings there, learn about what other organizations are doing, try to become part of that community. I believe you can actually, become a member or something like that. So that's a great one. Follow the Green Sports Alliance. Consider attending an event, whether it's that summit. And so it's kind of trying to make connections within that, right? And trying to learn about it. And it's what's really exciting. I mentioned that college sustainability event. There's so many universities now teaching sustainability at university. So it wasn't really a thing when I was in school. I didn't really think about it. It was mostly focused, maybe on the environmental side of things or engineering side of things, but now people can study it in business. So you don't necessarily have to go back to school, but a lot of it is about building the network, right? I did not study sustainability in school. I am self-taught. It was a passion of mine. I did go to law school, so that legal background helps. But it was, about building that network and learning. I'm going to brag about Cleveland a little bit because we have a great sustainability community. We have a group called the NEO Women in Sustainability, which is really just a Google group of women who share resources and support and get together. And I see, one of these women is on today. Shout out to Deepa. Thank you for being here. So that's a really great connection. There have been organizations around for a long time doing work in Cleveland, focused on sustainability, focused on the environment. So it's great to be able to tap into that network as well. Ooh, Eileen is on. Big shout out to Eileen McManaman, who is the board president of the Green Sports Alliance. Thank you for sharing that link to the summit in June 10 to 12 in Miami. And it's again, check out the GSA site for some of that information. So those are my that's my advice, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, those are great tips. And thanks for those who have put the links in the chat also for everyone, because that will be helpful. But yeah, networking, I guess, regardless of what specific industry you're wanting to go in, like your tips are helpful for anyone, like the networking, the doing your research and just trying to like get those contact points to navigate that your career choice. So thank you. So now I'm going to go a little bit more technical. One of the questions that came in with registration was around the energy source within the facilities, and they are asking if the Cleveland Cavaliers look to use solar as a source of energy within the facilities, like that built on the Intuit Dome, for example.
Yeah, the Intuit Dome is, if you don't know, is located in Los Angeles. It's a brand new facility, beautiful facility. I haven't been out there yet, but I've seen photos. I think they have 11,000 solar panels on the roof, which is really incredible. It was designed that way. So our building, like I mentioned, is 30 years old. A lot of arenas or other facilities have to kind of deal with what they have, right? You know, the like I mentioned the Rose Bowl Stadium before, which is, I think is over 100 years old. So some of us have the advantage of having these really nice newer arenas, which might be more energy efficient or something like that. Others of us have to invest in that. You know, how do we think about that efficiency? How do we retrofit old buildings, which can be tough to do? So we are trying to take a more comprehensive approach to energy. We're trying to look at it a little bit more holistically. It there may be renewables in the future. I don't know yet, right? I just don't know yet. What we are focusing on now is investing in conservation and efficiency, and that's where we should start. You know, when you kind of think about that energy hierarchy of needs and where are you going to put your investments if you do have to spend money? Well, let's focus first how could we just be more efficient and reduce that in the first place, and then sourcing. You know, we will certainly be thinking about sourcing more comprehensively. I just can't speak to that right now, but solar is, of course, very much an option potentially in the future. So more to come on that. You know, I'd say we're still early on in developing a broader energy strategy.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think with any facility or building, the first rule of thumb is always to improve that energy efficiency before you start looking at retrofits
Yeah.
or add-ons. So it's great that you're taking those measures. I want to shift a little bit to waste. And you mentioned the waste at the beginning of the presentation. And one of the questions that has come in live is asking about um, the recycling of your aluminum cans and how much cleaning prep do you need for them? Obviously, there's a significant amount of cans, and I'm sure there's a lot of intermingling of organic waste and recyclable waste. Can you just share a little bit of how you and the team goes about handling that?
Mhm. You know, we of course have fan-facing recycling bins, but I will say, waste is one of the biggest challenges, right? It is, recycling is confusing to people. There have been mixed messages. You know, even in our region, different cities have different waste hauling providers that might have slightly different recycling rules. So now you get thousands of people from different municipalities coming into one arena with their own thoughts about recycling. And every organization is going to deal with these challenges, at least here in the United States. Because recycling has been confusing for so long, right? So that's just one challenge we're coming up against. A lot of people do know aluminum cans are recycled, plastic bottles are recycled. So we are working on now, how do we engage fans and educate fans more on recycling right and sustainability more broadly, of course. But recycling or waste is always a great place to start because you may have heard the saying before that waste is a gateway to sustainability. People understand it, they interact with it, they actually participate in that waste, right? They'll get a drink at the arena, and then they're gonna dispose of that container. So part of that is how do we educate people? And it's not easy to do. People are coming to a Cavs game or a Monsters game. They're there to watch basketball. They're there to watch hockey. They're not necessarily thinking about sustainability. So capturing their attention for that is difficult, and we are working on ways to do that. And a lot of teams are working on ways to do that. Whether it's thinking about signage or messaging. So we're very much working on that right now. It is not solved, that problem, but we continue to do that. And like I said, as we evaluate all of our food and beverage materials, we're going to think, okay, how do we even reduce the number of materials we have? You go some places, they might have 5 different cups. And do all these cups go in the recycling? Do they not? Right? So that makes it even more confusing. So how do we just reduce the number of items we have to make it easier for fans to make the right decision at the bin? Right? It is very difficult to make things easy for people. And what we want to do is make it easy for people. So again, that is also an ongoing process. But WM is a big part of our help in that. Thinking about, we look to them, hey, are there best practices? They have a whole sports division. So we can look to them to say, is there another arena or facility doing something really well that we can think about? Or we've got to start internally of training our team members, and that is always ongoing. Right. I get questions daily as well. Hey, is this recyclable? Is there something else we can do? Which I very much appreciate because it's becoming more top of mind for people. But the waste space it's not easy, but we are committed to it. I hope to be able to share some more. We are piloting some things back of house I can't necessarily talk about right now, but more to come on that in the future.
Awesome, great. And how do thinking about the field house, there's a number of vendors you mentioned. Are you working with them? Are there agreements where waste and materials are incorporated in that so you can make sure that the vendors that are there are also using the recyclable cups or compostable materials that you're wanting to incorporate? And I guess that that's with your vendors, but maybe that can also be applied a little bit to your supply chain also,
Mhm.
with who you're working with and how you're procuring the materials that you're getting.
Yeah, our procurement team evaluates every vendor that we use, right? And we use quite a few. So sustainability is becoming more top of mind, and we are thinking about how do we evaluate a vendor on sustainability? What should we be considering? What are the questions we should be asking? So I mentioned our senior director of procurement is our co-chair of our sustainability squad. So he is very much learning a lot more about that too. So we are looking to that, and we're using some of those partners I mentioned earlier to think about. Okay, is it guidelines an organization should develop for that, or how should you be evaluating one vendor versus another? Do you just switch to a new vendor who might have a sustainable option, or how can we work with existing vendors to push them on sustainability, and try to move the needle with our current vendors who we like and who have provided great service, but maybe haven't been asked by a customer before. So we can play that role too, but that is very much in development.
Great, thank you. Um, so we've touched a little bit on the energy and efficiency, the waste. How do you prioritize the sustainability initiatives for a sporting event? I mean, given the scale and the complexity, and are there specific metrics or frameworks that you're using to measure your success?
Mhm. Um, Prioritizing is not easy. We focus on waste quite a bit because, like I said, that is a way to engage and educate people. Waste is not at all our biggest greenhouse gas emissions area, right? For most organizations, that's more so on the energy side. However, it is important to think about. We are dedicated to that, and again, we can educate people on that. So that's why we want to think about it. And people care, right? People care deeply about that. So that's a fun way to engage our team members internally as well through that. And we do collect data on that. So and then we think about, okay, where can might we be able to enhance the budget by reducing costs, right? So that's another way we can prioritize things, like I mentioned, energy, and with costs increasing for many within at least the PGM market next year, that is something we think about, right? And then thinking about what are the values of our company? What are the other objectives and key results of our company is aiming for this year? And how do we align sustainability with that, and prioritize that? So, and it's going to be shifting. What is priority right now, ideally will not have to be priority in the future,
Mhm.
because we can, move on and grow from there. But yeah, it's not always easy to just easily to prioritize. But as we develop more of a comprehensive strategy, and eventually we'll roll things out a little bit more publicly, we'll be setting those metrics and those targets.
Mhm. And one of the questions that have come in that kind of connects to this is, how do you work with consultants? So I imagine you will engage with consultants in some of this work.
Yeah, so I mentioned that goal initiative. They're essentially like consultants to us in one sense, so we're part of that organization. The sustainability advisory folks from WM, we work closely with them. We work closely with some energy consultants right now, and we'll be, like I mentioned, thinking about how do we approach that more comprehensively. Um, Otherwise, we haven't used too many consultants. I'm luckily am here. Our organization decided that they wanted someone full time with that background who can focus on it. So that's part of that. But it's mostly with our current partners right now that we provide that support or get that support.
Yeah, that's great. Um, can you touch a little bit on what some of the maybe most surprising or unexpected lessons you've learned from implementing the sustainable practices so
Mm.
far? Anything?
Um, yeah. So I will say I did not come from the sports industry. I came from sustainability consulting, working mostly with manufacturing consumer product companies. So coming into an organization like this, just um, right, the volume, you talked about waste, the volume of items we do have, or it's just the volume of waste created by one event. I don't know if that was necessarily surprising, but it certainly gives you a different perspective on how to approach sustainability in a sense. Um, and then what was just pleasantly surprising, not that I didn't expect this, but it was really nice that, and again, why I feel so lucky in my position. I came into this organization and everyone was excited about sustainability, right? They understand that it is a priority, and we're going to grow in this area. And, we're going to do a lot of team member engagement and education. And people are coming up with ideas all the time. So it's been cool just to see folks throughout our organization come up with ideas or ask questions or want to engage in sustainability, unprompted, right? Unprompted by me or the sustainability squad even. So that's been just a really pleasant part of the job. And I know, just all those folks out there who are, working on sustainability within their companies, it's not always easy. Sometimes you do come up against challenges or naysayers. So I feel lucky every day to be at an organization that gets it. Not everyone has the education or background, so that's part of my job is to help engage those folks, which is just a continuous process. But people are really supportive.
That's
Yeah.
great. Well, and I guess shifting a little bit from internally to externally, one of the questions that has come in, and they say fantastic presentation and congrats on your great work. But asking if you could share a little bit more about strategic partnerships and how the Cavs could use their branding platform to elevate issues to the public audience. So like climate change, water challenges, recycling, all the things that you've touched on.
Mhm. Yeah, something we continue to talk about. We're doing a workshop next week with the partnerships team to really focus on sustainability and partnerships. And of course, our a big part of our social media is focused on the sports team itself. They're doing really well, but we also promote our partners, whether it is on social media or other types of media or within the arena, and share some of that messaging out. We've done a really great job of that in the social impact space. So we can look to that model and then, okay, what are the ways we want to share? So I'd say since I've been here little over a year, a lot of our work has been internal and is continuing to be internal because that's where we want to start. So as we get more external and talk to our partners about what do we want to share collectively, what can we do, and we are having those conversations right now. There's nothing I can share publicly at this time, but we are having those conversations and coming up with ideas. And I love that so many people on our partnerships team reach out to me. They bring me into conversations. They connect me with the sustainability person at one of our partner companies, right? So I've met several other sustainability folks at our partner organization. So we are looking to that. And we also, want to make sure we're aligned with our partners and just generally with partnerships. So I know Eileen McManaman was on here. We were at a summit recently, the Sport Positive Summit, specifically talking about partnerships and sustainability within sports and how do we approach that and what can we do. And you always want to remember you represent each other's brands. So looking to make sure you're aligning properly and what do you think about? But again, I don't have some great answer for that necessarily, but those conversations are ongoing.
Great. Yeah, one of my questions that I was wondering was about how you involve fans in sustainability efforts and increasing that awareness, and also curious if you see from the fan base if there's more demand for sustainability at the games. Um, and one of the folks that just wrote in with a question also was asking about providing incentives to fans, like to recycle cans or
Mhm.
bottles.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned before, people are there to have a good time and watch a sports game. However, we have done some, we call it surprise and delight. So, maybe if someone recycles right at the can, hey, here's some sort of incentive or prize. WM was on site and did like an interactive thing with kids about recycling education, and they got to shoot a little basketball into a hoop that was attached to a recycling toter. So there's some of that, but it is something ongoing, and we're always talking to partners about that, that fan engagement piece, and what do we do? So there's always ideas floating around. We will be building that out a little bit more. Like I said, a lot of our work has been internal because we want to make sure our team members understand sustainability and understand what's going on, so everyone can then share it out, right? So we all know and are well prepared to engage with fans on that. But we will be doing more. And we're having some of those conversations about fun things to do with fans, with partners. So hopefully we'll be able to roll some of that out more.
great. Well, and I would think with the major sports industry, the athletes themselves are influencers, and so for them to also to be that spokesperson of sustainability in sports and help get that message, because the team as a whole has a huge influence, and then these individuals as athletes and role models have a big opportunity to influence as well.
Yeah, there are, and I know there's some players out there that are advancing it. Chris Paul, an NBA player, is now on the board of the Green Sports Alliance, so he's very much thinking about it. There's an organization called Eco Athletes that athletes sign up to be a part of that platform to advance sustainability themselves. Whether it's some of them are Olympic athletes, some of them are collegiate athletes, some are professional athletes. So if you're interested in learning about more athletes who are promoting sustainability or environmental stewardship, check out Eco Athletes. That's a great platform.
Fantastic. Now we've talked, speaking of the athletes, and we've talked a lot about the field house and the games, and you obviously have more control over what's happening there. But I'm curious about when the team is traveling for away games,
Mhm.
um, have you been able to look at how you're able to reduce the team's environmental footprint when they're traveling?
Mm. So we don't necessarily control the travel that much. The schedule is set by the NBA, and what the NBA has done has is thought about reducing the length of travel for teams. So the NBA is working on this where, okay, how can the team fly fewer miles? One, it's better for the health of athletes. So our team, for example, was just on almost a 2-week West Coast tour, right? So they're not flying back and forth to these teams. They're staying out in the West Coast region. One, it is better for them and their health to be able to kind of stay in one area for a little while, and then it is reduced carbon emissions because there is less flying. So yes, it is very much a factor of sports where teams are flying. We live in a very big country. We're not over in the UK or another European country where it's easier to take a train or a bus. When you go to California, well, you're going to fly, right? Um, so that's just that is a part of our industry, something the league is thinking about and talks to us about, which is really nice, so we can look to the league for support on some of that. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I know we're coming close to the end of our time. I guess one last question, I guess if there's anything that you want to share in terms of like long-term sustainability goals. I know you've just started a lot of this work and there are some things that you're not able to share with us just yet. So hopefully in the future you'll be able to come back and have lots more announcements and exciting achievements. But do you want to touch maybe a little bit on just some of the long-term sustainability goals that you have planned?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, long term is to we are starting to roll some things out internally. So long term is to share that out publicly, right? Kind of finalize some of that and say, hey, here's what we're focusing on. Um, here is in our goals, right? Actually setting some of those goals. So it just takes time internally to work through a lot of that because we do want to have data informed goals. So it's having to collect all that data, evaluate that, and then set those goals. So that's a big part of it, and just engaging more partners, whether it's corporate partners or community partners, in sustainability, because that's how we can amplify the messaging. And, personally, I think the biggest impact we can make is through behavior change. So it is very much, an ideal goal to influence behavior change, not only of our own team members, but of our fans and the community. And that's gonna take a while. Just as anyone knows who's worked on behavior change, it is hard to change behavior, but we will continue to do that because we are committed. So that's something more. But yeah, please stay tuned. Like I said, follow me on LinkedIn if you can, and we'll be sharing more out over this year, this season and into next season. And I know we could not get to every question. I'm sorry about that. I could talk about this all day, but I really appreciate being invited to share today.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. Yeah, we had some great questions come in today. But definitely appreciate what you're doing, leading the charge for sustainability in major sports in the Great Lakes region with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I, I know I speak for the Council of the Great Lakes region. We would love to continue working with you and supporting this movement and sustainability in sports. There's just so much opportunity for impact and reducing that environmental footprint. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you to our audience for all the great questions. I did see somebody noted sustainable aviation fuel when we were talking about away games and travel. So that's a little plug or cue for me to plug our next webinar, which is in 3 weeks with Porter Airlines. And we're actually going to be discussing sustainability in aviation. So if anybody is interested in that, I hope that you will register. Um, I also want to thank the Fred and Barbara Erb Family Foundation. They support CGLR's business and sustainability work, which includes many of the webinars that we're able to deliver each month. So we appreciate their support. And yeah, I hope that everyone will join us for our next webinars. There will be a survey that goes out right after this, and we'd love to get everyone's feedback, suggestions for future webinars. So please take a few minutes to fill that out if you can. And until then, have a great rest of your day. And Danielle, again, thank you so much, and go Cavs, right?
Go Cavs.